The purpose of discipline is development. People give themselves to a discipline so they can develop in that area, so they can become better in that area, so they can conform to an ideal. Now, the ideal sometimes is known, sometimes is not known, sometimes it's just the steady progress that one makes towards a goal, towards an objective. Now, discipline can be a warning, it can be instruction, it can be counsel, it can be training. From that same root word, we have disciple. So if we take, let's say, the Lord Jesus Christ, when he had men, a group of men following him about, eating with him, listening to his words, he was disciplining them. He was giving them discipline. So they were being conformed to become like him. They were being trained so they can be like him. So after a while, in his own case, I think just 3+ years, when he had long died and resurrected, ascended, when those people went to preach, they spoke like Jesus. So they took note that they had become like him. So in like manner, if you're training to be a, let's say, a champion in some area, or learning a trade, you're being discipled to become like the one who is teaching you the trade. So you will learn simple steps, and then you graduate to intermediate steps, and then you get to advanced steps, advanced protocols. You're learning more and more and more. This is important because training children is discipline. Being trained at work is discipline. Learning a trade is discipline. And with discipline comes correction, because many times, as with giving instructions, which is part of discipline, as with warning, many times when we correct people, because correction is part of discipline, correction implies that I have done something in a manner, in a way I shouldn't do it. And then someone that knows better than I do comes to me and says, hey, this way you've done this is not right. Consider doing it like this. Or just straight up, you are wrong, do it like this. And if I've given myself to be disciplined, to be discipled, what my job is, what my role is, what my response should be, is to take the correction, to change my way, to modify whatever it is I had done or I was doing, so that I can conform to the correction. The trouble many of us have is that when we are corrected, when we are disciplined or discipled in that way, we are too concerned about tone. How did he say it? How did she say it? What does he mean? Is he or she looking down on me? And none of that has got to do with training, because training is about development. I'm being developed to become better than how I was previously, to become better than maybe a certain standard. So let's say I'm an athlete, okay? I do athletics, I run, I jump, I do all those kind of things. The purpose of training me is to increase my performance. The purpose of training me is to move me from one degree of effectiveness and performance to a higher degree of effectiveness and performance. So when you would take those learnings from athletics, or maybe from some enterprise like farming, where it's also a discipline, the way you crop, the way you weed, when you crop, the way you manure, the way you tend the plants, all of that is a discipline. In life, we're often corrected, and in many places you hear people take an exception to how they're being corrected. You even hear people talk about correct in love. What does that mean? What does it mean to correct in love? If someone is correcting me, it's because they see that whatever I have done or whatever I am doing could be done better, or may just be plain wrong. So we all went to school, most of us, and then in primary school the teachers corrected us. No teacher corrected with a tone smiling. Hey, Jack, you got it wrong. Jack! No, nobody does that. Jack! That's what the teacher does. So there is strength in the voice. There's some aggression, if you'd even call it that, in the voice, but there is something that grabs my attention to let me know what I'm doing is wrong. So imagine a child who is maybe making his or her way towards the fire, towards the lantern that is hot. There is no smooth, suave way to correct that child. The parent or the caregiver must scream, must shock the child into attention. And then the child breaks the stride, breaks the step, and then is, processing, why are they shouting? Why is the voice shouting at me? The voice is not shouting at the child for the ruin of the child. That shout was love for the child. So the tone is not what is love. Love is the correction itself. So many times people, sometimes we assemble ourselves as people older than some people, sometimes as teachers, sometimes as ministers or pastors. And there is this new liberal way of tone policing, tone management. I don't know which prophet God spoke to in a tone that the prophet liked. I don't know one. I don't know if Abraham, when he gave a sacrifice to God, loved the darkness that came upon him and the dread that he endured. I don't know if he did. I don't know which prophet that has written, or there's a record of in the scriptures, how the tone of God just so massaged their ego, just so say inspired their warm experience of God. I don't know one. Most people who had an encounter with God dreaded the experience, because the presence of God carries dread with it. I don't know why it is so, but the point of it is this: when we are corrected, whether someone is correcting what I've said, like I'm talking now, I might say something that is off, something that is wrong. It's your right to challenge me. It might even be your duty to challenge me. It is my responsibility to accept the challenge, to accept the correction. It's a sign of my maturity if I review what you said. I might review what you've said and still hold to my position, telling myself, or having reviewed it, say, no, what you're saying may be useful, may be nice, but it's not what I know, or what I know is superior. Or I might review and say, oh, Sister Jacqueline, what Jacqueline has said, oh, is better. I didn't know that. What Marianne has said, oh, that's some insight I'd missed. That's some knowledge I didn't have. Instead of policing Marianne, maybe Michael is one that corrected me, and all of a sudden I'm upset with Michael, and then I hold a conference on how to correct. There is no singular way to correct. All correction is love. All correction. Otherwise, you can let people destroy themselves. I mean, in school then, if a child misspells, I did spelling in my primary school. So when we misspelled words, apart from the red marks on the script, on our spelling books, sometimes they had us write out the particular word or the particular phrase 50 times, some 20 times, some 100 times. We'll write the thing again and again until sometimes we felt numbness in our fingers. And while we were being corrected, all other children were out playing at recess time. That's when we did the correction. So we didn't do the correction during class time when the teacher was teaching or the attendants were attending to us. We did the correction in our time, the time that should have been for our leisure and enjoyment. That's what correction is. So correction may deprive you, may cost you, but if you're going to become better, you must give yourself to correction. Instead of telling yourself that I don't like the way Brian spoke to me, I don't like the way Angela spoke to me. However they spoke to you, the intent was to bring you or bring me correction. It's not always pleasant to be corrected. Discipline is not pleasant. In my youth days, I did some sports, and doing press-ups the first time, 50, I didn't do 50, 10 the first time, made the muscles quiver, made the muscles tremble. And then the coach or the whoever was supervising us at the time didn't smile with us. You were to do it with shouting. That's correction. And we would not have become athletic if we did not do those exercises, give ourselves to those disciplines. So in our day, if you're in church, if you are a parent, if you're an educator, whatever stature or stage you find yourself, whatever stature you may be at or stage you find yourself in, please be open to be corrected. Be open to be instructed, because correction is a warning. It's an instruction, it's guidance, it's counsel. But all of that is to bring me development. I don't think it's wisdom, because now there are all these narratives, when so and so is correcting this teaching, this doctrine, was it done in love? It's not done in hatred. No correction is done in hatred. It is written of the Lord Jesus, he learned obedience by the things he suffered. Those things were not pleasurable. He suffered things. He was heard in praying because of his piety, in that he feared God, not that in that he loved God, not in that he enjoyed God, not in that he knew God, in that he feared the terrors of God. That's why he was heard when he prayed. So in my time, in our day, if I've said something out of place, if I've spoken in error, if I've been mistaken, or I've spoken, I'm speaking to people with tertiary knowledge, let's say, people in university, in a particular, who know a particular subject a certain way, who are advanced in that subject, and I've spoken to them as though I'm speaking to primary school students. They ought to correct me, because that's the wrong audience. If I'm speaking to those in primary school and I say twinkle twinkle little star or something in that nature, they may giggle, they may love it, they may love my voice, but I can't say that to people who are senior people who have tertiary knowledge. I must say something more meaningful to them. So when being corrected, receive the correction. Stop debating the tone of the correction. Stop investigating the correction, whether there is love behind it. You can't tell. Nobody can tell whether there is love behind it. And in this, I would borrow from Paul. In every way, let the truth be spoken. Let the gospel be preached. Whether they're doing out of pure motivation as to side with Apostle Paul so that they're all in one band, we're all together in this, or because they're against him, saying to add sorrow to his affliction so that he will know that without him, the gospel will move forward. That's fine. But without correction, we will all be in error. One of the reasons we have truth in the gospels today is because people like Apostle Paul challenge people like Apostle Peter. People like Apostle Peter challenge some other people who are false teachers. And in such challenge, we become more refined. We grow in our experience of what truth is.